IndyCar has had some big races and crown jewel events. The Indianapolis 500, Long Beach Grand Prix, the 500-mile Triple Crown of IndyCar where they raced at the Indianapolis 500 and two other 500-mile races, such tracks as Ontario, Michigan, Pocono, and even Fontana. Back in the day, USAC IndyCar did the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. And of course, there's also Championship Weekend. However, there is a forgotten crown jewel that has been forgotten and now talked about, the Vanderbilt Cup. What is the Vanderbilt Cup and the history? The Vanderbilt Cup was an international event which was founded by 26-year-old William Kessett Vanderbilt II. William was an American racing enthusiast, a yachtsman, and a member of the prominent Vanderbilt family who was a Harvard dropout after 2 years. In 1904, William and the AAA National Motor Car Championship established America's first international auto race. The first ever Vanderbilt Cup was held at Nassau County on Long Beach, New York. The race was a 30.24-mile course of winding dirt roads through the Nassau County area. However, there was controversy in New York since the race was first announced. The Sons of High Society commandeered public tax-funded road for the sport in the face of protests from the rural community's largely farmer population. The lure of an economic boom from thousands of free-spending visitors to the Long Island community proved incentive enough for Nassau County supervisors to approve the use of public roads for auto racing when it met on August 23, 1904. Unconcerned, however, were camp farmers who still relied on horses for transportation and saw automobiles as playthings of the idle rich. Despite several legal attempts to stop the race from taking place, Nassau County supervisors and the judges gave their approval in a few days for the race. After 6 hours, 56 minutes, and 45 seconds, George Heath won the inaugural Vanderbilt Cup by a minute and 26 seconds behind the Clement Bayard. The race also took place in Savannah, Georgia, 1911, Milwaukee, 1912, Santa Monica, California, 1914, San Francisco in 1915, and one last time at Santa Monica in 1916. The event lasted from 1904 to 1906, 1908 to 1912, 1914 through 1916, 1936 to 1937 for the George Vanderbilt Cup, and 1960 for the Cornelius Vanderbilt Cup. Granted, the Vanderbilt Cup still went on from 1965, 1967 through 1968, but it was from the United States Road Racing Championship Series, which would be IMSA today. So there's your brief history of the Vanderbilt Cup. Now, here's the story of the IndyCar Vanderbilt Cup. For the first time in 36 years, the Vanderbilt Cup made its return. Carwood obtained the rights to the Vanderbilt Cup. The Vanderbilt Cup race returned as a $1 million race at the US 500 in Michigan from 1996 to 1999. Not only the race winner will win $1 million, but they will also win a recreation of one of motorsport's oldest and most prestigious prizes, the Vanderbilt Cup. Bobby Rahal, who was CART's interim president and CEO, said that it was an excellent opportunity for CART to continue to share in the heritage of America's first major motorsports trophy, and elaborated from a single race trophy to an ultimate level in the FedEx Championship Series, and went on to mention about the legends like Ralph DePalma and Dario Resto, who both won the Vanderbilt Cup, and is confident that the champions of CART will enhance the heritage of the prestigious trophy. Not only it'll be a historic race with a historical trophy, the event had a good cause. CART's partnership with the Vanderbilt Cup made an annual donation to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center on behalf of Edwin Burke, who was the granddaughter of William K. Vanderbilt Jr. The Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center was CART's first permanent charity beneficiary. As for the races, the 1996 US 500 that happened. Alright, fine, I'll recap the race for you. The 1996 US 500 was going against the Indianapolis 500 due to the split. The race was advertised as the best drivers in the world racing for 500 miles in the Irish Hills. Jimmy Vasser was upholstered for the race, but a big pileup happened which took out 10 cars. However, since the race didn't start, backup cars were used. After an hour and a minute delay, the race went underway for real. The race was underway and Jimmy Vasser had an amazing jump off a start. But on lap 2, Scott Pruitt hadn't blown engine. 3 laps after the restart, which was lap 8, on lap 11, Frederick Ekblom had engine problems. On lap 84, Gary Benhausen crashed in turn 4. On lap 128, Bobby Rahal crashed in turn 2, was out because of his right front suspension being damaged. On lap 145, Jeff Kronsnoff had engine issues. On lap 163, Greg Moore spun exiting in turn 2. Alex Zanardi, who was dominating the race by leading 134 laps, had blown up his engine and retired. Parker Johnstone ran out of fuel with 37 laps to go and retired. Greg Moore had a blown engine with 26 laps to go and retired. Andre Ribeiro had a chance for the win, but with 10 to go, he had mechanical issues. Not only he would lose the lead, but he would lose the win to Jimmy Vasser. After a controversial and embarrassing start to the race, Jimmy Vasser would win the inaugural US 500 at Michigan and was the first driver since 1960 to win the Vanderbilt Cup for open wheels. After a disastrous 1996 US 500, the 1997 race will now compete against the Indy 500. Third race would be nearly at the end of July. Unlike 1996, the race started 2 wide instead of the 500-mile traditional 3 wide start. Scott Pruitt started on the pole for the race. Teammates Scott Pruitt and Mauricio Gungelman raced side by side on the first lap of swap positions. On lap 54, Parker Johnstone had a tire down and crashed in turn 2, hitting a wall with his right side of his car. A piece of suspension entered his cockpit, hit Johnstone in the helmet. Aside from a laceration on his forehead, he was thankfully uninjured. While the race was under yellow, Andre Ribeiro suffered a transmission failure and called it quits. While Andre was suffering his issues, 1996 US 500 winner Jimmy Vasser suffered the same issues on DNF. Bobby Rahal led 25 laps in that race. He hasn't won a race since Nazareth in 1992. However, Alex Zanardi, who was recovering from a penalty due to running over equipment, took the lead away from Bobby Rahal on lap 119. While attempting to pass Dennis Vitolo, who was a lap car, Bobby Rahal drifted high in turn 2 and hit the wall on the right side of his car. Unfortunately, Bobby Rahal suffered a bruised right hip. Despite leading laps of the race, Bobby Rahal would never win another IndyCar race after 1992. Scott Pruitt led 32 laps, but on lap 175, Scott Pruitt would drift high in turn 2 and crash out of the race. While Scott Pruitt crashed, Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Dario Franchitti, and other drivers suffered mechanical issues. Alex Zanardi, who dominated the 1996 race but lost the race, led 93 of the final 98 laps and will finally win the US 500, redemption for last year. The 1998 US 500 was a memorable race, unfortunately for the wrong reasons. We will get to that in a moment after we go through what went down before. Adrian Fernandez started on the pole, and this race had a Hanford device. The Hanford device was a device for the rear wing in order to slow the cars down on superspeedways. The race has 63 lead changes thanks to the Hanford device. So let's get into the race. During the first 100 laps, there were 7 different leaders and 19 lead changes. The first 2 cautions would come out for accidents. Robbie Gordon will crash out on lap 81 and Dennis Vitolo will crash out on lap 92. The next caution will be out for PJ Jones. His engine blew up. Remember what I said about this race being memorable for the wrong reasons? Well, this is it. On lap 175, Adrian Fernandez, who was running third at the time, had his car slid off the track and crashed into the outside wall at 200 miles per hour, shearing off his right front tire, flying over the 11-foot grandstands. Unfortunately, 3 spectators died and 6 others were injured. One of the spectators who passed away from the accident actually died at the track's center. Meanwhile, Adrian Fernandez suffered bruised knees after having an impact in 92 Gs. Controversially, the race continued even though there were ongoing investigations. 2 more cautions came out for Dario Franchitti. A spin on lap 185, and he had his engine blown on lap 216. 2 more cautions will come out for JJ Leto on lap 227, and a final caution of the race will come out on lap 242 due to engine issues. During the last closing laps of the race, it was the Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi show. Even Scott Pruitt was part of the battle. However, Greg Moore would also join the party. I'll let y'all sit back and enjoy the exciting conclusions of the 1998 US 500.
Zanardi and Vasser behind him. It's Pruitt, Moore, Bobby Rahal in there, Richie Hearn,
and look at
Michael
Greg Moore in the blue car.
Yep.
He's coming right down along Jimmy Vasser.
Close.
And let's not forget, Scott Pruitt's been in this position before. And smoke out of Jimmy Vasser. Smoke on the right side of Jimmy Vasser.
That's Pruitt just behind. That's Zanardi's car. That is Zanardi
I'm so excited up here. I got the cars wrong. Look at that smoke down there. Zanardi slowing, came down the inside. He wants those points. Is he going to try to nurse it? No, he's going for it.
And there is another very evil-sounding car out there further back in the pack.
And look at this.
Here goes Moore. Moore going for the lead around Jimmy Vasser.
And even over the roar of the engines, you can hear this huge crowd with a giant roar as Moore goes on top.
And here comes Jimmy. He's coming back around the outside.
Pruitt down low for third. Oh, Zanardi has still got his foot in it.
And look at this. This looks like the first lap of the race.
White flag next time by. Vassar and Moore. Zanardi has dropped back a few car lengths. Pruitt has dropped back behind him.
Moore tried to look underneath. Not having it.
It appears that these two men will decide it. White flag for Jimmy Vassar. Zanardi attacking for third. Make that second. Oh, will they go three wide? No.
Is this a ploy by Jimmy Vassar to back off a little bit, get Greg Moore's draft, and see if he can snooker him on the last lap? Look at Jimmy coming.
Here comes Zanardi. Does he have the horsepower despite that smoke from the back of the car? Greg Moore draws to a couple of car lengths away, and he will win the US 500. And I believe Jimmy Vassar hung on for second over his teammate as Alex Zanardi's engine coughs its last.
And I can tell you, Scott Pruitt was right. You don't want to lead the last lap. Greg Moore passed him, and look at that.
The 17th different winner in 19 500-mile races here at Michigan. And for Greg Moore, this is sweet redemption.
After a competitive and unfortunately a tragic race, Greg Moore would steal the Vanderbilt Cup away from Belk Ganassi cars. After the tragic accident that cost 3 lives in the stands, Michigan International Speedway added 4 feet of fencing and extended 2.5 feet for the fence height. Additional cables were also added to reinforce the fence to prepare the 1999 racing series at Michigan for ARCA, NASCAR, and CART. The 1999 US 500 had a couple memorable moments. One of the reasons because Jimmy Vassar's Target Superman livery, and other is because of what went down in the race. However, we will get to that moment. Jimmy Vassar was faster than a speeding bull in qualifying and starting the pole. After a couple of starts called off, first one due to field alignment issues, the race went underway, and as expected, it was a battle between Jimmy Vassar, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Michael Andretti for the first 36 laps. Then Paul Tracy will take the lead away and stay there for 2 laps until Michael Andretti took the lead back and led 31 laps. However, the first or second caution, if you count the start call-off as the first yellow, caution came out for Joe LaFerran's crash on lap 61. Andretti was building a lead and was about to do his green flag pit stop service until Joe wrecked. The race went back underway, and for the next 66 laps, there will be 8 lead changes, and Max Papis will be the only different leader. Max had a 9-second lead until PJ Jones wrecked on lap 137. For the next 41 laps, there was 10 lead changes and 1 different leader, which is Dario Franchitti. However, the next and final caution would come out for Scott Pruitt on lap 185. After Scott Pruitt's crash, the race was green flag for the remainder of the race, and it was competitive, with different drivers going at it with 6 more lead changes until the checker flag. Speaking of competitive and checker flags, remember what I said about the race being rememberable during the race? During the closing laps of the 1999 US 500, there was a fight between Max Papis, Tony Kanaan, and Juan Pablo Montoya for the victory.
And if he can do it, he becomes the 6th driver to score his first career win in a 500-mile race at Michigan. Now 1 lap to go. Max Papis is on the final lap for Bobby Rahal. Kanaan crossed the line 3 seconds behind him. Montoya 4 seconds back. Down the back straightaway. Will Max Papis become the 3rd first-time winner this year? It sure looks that way. He runs out of fuel. He runs out of fuel. Kanaan screams past. Kanaan screams into the lead. Montoya's trying to chase him to the line. Oh, so very close. Montoya jumped low at the line. It looked for a moment there like Papis was just slowing for the flag, and then he slowed further. And by 32 thousandths, Kanaan takes Montoya, and Papis has to give it away. Oh, Max Papis pulls it off onto the grass and down to the end of the pit area, and Tony Kanaan takes the win. What an incredible final lap. Just when we were beginning to sing the praises of Max Papis, suddenly he slows.
And we talked about what a narrow fuel window he was on. Well, it was 1 corner and 1 straightaway too short. Tony Kanaan, who pitted much later, was able to run full power all the way to the checkered flag.
What an exciting battle until the end between those 3 drivers. Tony Kanaan will get his first and only kart win at Michigan and winning the Vanderbilt Cup. Juan Pablo Montoya would finish second in the race, and Max Papis would finish 7th after running out of fuel and dominate the race by leading 142 laps. So instead, Paul Tracy will finish 3rd. Tony Kanaan will be the last driver to win the Vanderbilt Cup at Michigan. After 1999, CAR designated the Vanderbilt Cup as the series championship starting in 2000. Joe LaFerrin would win a title in 2000 to 2001. Cristiano Tamada will win a title in 2002. Paul Tracy will win the title in 2003. Sebastian Bourdais will win the championship from 2004 to 2007. Sebastian Bourdais will be the last ever driver to win the Vanderbilt Cup due to the bankrupt Champ Car and IndyCar purchasing the assets. Tony George, who caused the split, mentioned interest in using the Vanderbilt Cup as the IndyCar Series championship trophy. However, the Astor Cup has been used since 2011. And just like that, that is the history of the Vanderbilt Cup. It was a major event that doesn't get talked about as much or not at all, and it deserves some more recognition since it was a thing during the birth of American open wheel racing. So that's going to do it for another episode of Racing Stories. If I did get anything wrong or miss something, as usual, tell me in the comments below. Please, feedback would be appreciated. Thank you. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Racing Stories. This is the Pros 2000, signing off. Goodbye, everybody.